having me, everyone. I don't know, your message might have been better, so that everybody might be in a few more minutes going, I don't know if this is going to work out so well. But I'm going to talk a little bit about perseverance and what that has meant to me within the context of my faith and pretty well living life. And from my perspective, the whole thing about Christianity and following the Lord, it's really about perseverance. It's really about a journey of challenges, and obviously there's joy in that as well. But anybody can do it when it's easy, when things are going well, when life is working out the way you want it to. You don't need perseverance. You don't need to have faith. You don't need to trust, because, well, you don't want to change the situation. If you just got the promotion, you just got the relationship that you're looking for, your finances are all in order, your health is fantastic, then there's no need for any sort of assistance or help in that sense. I'm not sure how much you guys know about my background, but I played as a professional athlete for the BC Lions for quite a number of years, and that's kind of the crucible for me of learning about perseverance, because I came out of university as a rookie player, and everything was going well at every single stage of the game up until that point. I'd had success. I started in high school and worked my way up from a guy who the coach wouldn't let on the field to I'm the starting running back and breaking school records, and I start over, I go to university, and things are going well, I think, and then I get to university and I spend 2 years on the bench because the guy ahead of me is that, he's really good. I mean, he deserves to be playing, but that means that I'm not playing. And so the frustration for myself was, okay, persevere, just stay the course, keep working out, doing the things that I know how to do. And at that time in my life, to be perfectly honest and transparent with you guys, my faith wasn't that strong. So, it was during my time at university where I think the Lord was actually molding me, kind of unbeknownst to myself, during those kind of more challenging times of not playing, not starting, and having to put my ego back into the proper perspective. Where at university we have a chaplain, and he comes around to the different sports teams. There's an organization called Athletes in Action, a great organization, and the chaplain comes and speaks to all the different teams. And I started going to the meetings because I did have a belief, and it was through that process that I sort of started coming back to having a more strong and grounded connection with God and just feeling His presence more in my life. And eventually, after a couple of years of going through that period, the guy who was ahead of me graduated, and I started in my third year, and things started looking up again. And I went on to have a good career at the school and set a bunch of school records, and some of which are still standing. And I'm thinking, life's great, thank you, Lord, hallelujah. It's funny how you're always praising when things are going well, right? And I had the opportunity then to go to try out for the New York Giants, which is in the NFL down south. And at the time, I was only maybe the 5th player in Canada, that as a Canadian had gone straight from a Canadian university to an NFL team. And so I've gone from being a standout at high school to being a standout at university. Now I'm going to the NFL. Yay, it's going to be great. I'm going to be a star, blah, blah, blah. And I get down there, and 3 weeks later, I'm on a plane coming home. So you can imagine it's not really a high point in my life at that point in time, and I'm kind of questioning everything. I'm like, Lord, I thought this was the goal. This is what we were supposed to be doing. Like, imagine the platform I would have had for you as an NFL player, and so many people would know my name, and I'd be able to score touchdowns in your name, and blah 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 blah. And that was not to be. And I came back and I started off in Edmonton because they had drafted me, and I'm now the 6th person on the depth chart behind 5 other guys, and these guys are all really, really good. And I'm like, Lord, what's going on? And to cut a long story short, I went through a pretty dry spell where I went for almost 4 years of kind of obscurity and just barely hanging on and going from one low to another low as I got cut from one team to another team. And it took that long before I was finally able to crack the lineup here in BC and get onto the lines and start the trajectory to move back up again. So, when people talk about perseverance or what it takes to achieve something, it's never, at least from my experience of my own life and observing others, it's never a straight line. You never just kind of go on this rocket ship all the way up to the top and the elevator doesn't stop on any of the other ground floors. So to me, if I didn't have my faith, if I didn't have a belief that there is a plan, right? there is something going on here. All of these things that I'm going through are for a reason. It's not just because some capricious nature of the world or life or whatever. Like, God is molding me for something. And the goals that I had for myself, not that they don't matter, but God matters more. So, Lord, like, I may not be happy right this specific second, but if I'm in you, then I'm content, right? I really did learn what Paul meant when he said, in all things I've learned to be I've learned to be content in, and this is what he's writing this from a jail cell and talking about, well, in riches he's content, and in poverty he's content, whether he's healthy or not, whatever is going on, he's learned to be content because of his relationship with Jesus. And to me, that's what it means to persevere, actually, because perseverance sounds like this sort of esoteric concept where, okay, you just grit your teeth and you hold on and you just keep doing what you're doing. But really, perseverance is about holding on to Jesus. Like, if you hold on to Jesus and keep him close and persevere in sticking close to the Lord, then everything else takes a back seat. And not that it doesn't matter, because obviously we have our lives to live in, we have our goals and we have our dreams, etc., but it allows you to do what you need to do. Then it allows you to persevere in the things of life that you're struggling with, the challenges that may come your way, because if you're persevering and holding to God first, if Jesus is the number one principle, then everything else can fall into its proper perspective. So for me, the challenge has been, and still remains, to be perfectly frank, is how do I stay close to Jesus? How do I stay close to the Lord and not allow the things that are happening in my life to distract me from that? To kind of keep moving the story forward. I got into film and television when I was pretty young, so probably about the same time that I started playing football, I also got into acting. So I've done a bunch of different roles. I've had some very limited amounts of success, but I'm now 49 and I started acting when I was 22, and I've never kind of, from my perspective, made it. I haven't gotten that breakthrough role. I haven't been able to sustain myself as an actor with the money that I earned from that particular profession. But yet I feel called, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, Lord, like, if this is what you want me to do, then you need to open some doors and you need to help me out, because how am I supposed to do what you want? And I remember, I think it was last year, I'm not sure exactly when the movie came out, but I went to see a movie called The Case for Christ. And I remember sitting in the theater, and there's a moment in the movie where the lead character finally kind of comes to a realization of who Christ is and who Jesus is, and he's sitting there and he's crying and he's just like, wow, because he's been trying to prove that Christ doesn't exist, and all of a sudden he has this moment, and it's close up on the guy as he's crying, and it just kind of hit me, and I realized, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be able to affect people the way this movie's affecting me right now, and feel that change in my heart and that perspective. So that was kind of validation for me that God was saying, Sean, yeah, you're on the right path. This is something that I've put in your heart. This is a gift that I've given to you, and I want you to fulfill it. And the challenge from my perspective is, okay, well, great, Lord, but how's that all going to work? Where's the roles? Who's going to hire me? And all that sort of a thing. And that's where, again, I've had to rely on being persevering and sticking close to Jesus and reminding myself of my calling, reminding myself of the words that God has said in the Bible, that I have plans to prosper you and to not harm you. And despite, from my perspective anyway, I don't know if any of you ever feel like that somehow, well, Lord, this doesn't feel very prosperous at the moment. I don't know if have you really got down with what the whole concept of prosperity means? Because I'm not really sure that I'm feeling what you're putting out right now. But and to be perfectly frank, I'm still in that journey. But I've changed a bunch of different things. I've started moving in a direction now of, well, I'm going to produce my own projects and put features out that I can put myself into, and maybe that's the angle that I'm supposed to be working at, and that's seeming to be gaining some traction. So I guess the bottom line for me, and what I'm hoping that you can all kind of take away from this, is that life is going to be challenging, right? And I think we all know that. And I'm not here to tell you anything that's kind of earth-shattering or new information. I kind of look at this as a little bit of encouragement, like a little bit of, hey, atta boy, atta girl, keep on moving. You're heading in the right direction. This is what you're being called to do. And I don't know what any of your individual circumstances are. I don't know where you're at in your life at this point in time. But whatever it is that you're going through, because I know we're all human, we're all here on the same planet, so I guarantee I know you're going through something right now, or you're on the verge of going through something, but you're going to go through something, just in case you didn't know. You are going to go through some stuff. And in those moments, my encouragement to you would be to say, remember what you know, right? Because you do know. You do know that God has a plan for you. You do know that Jesus walks beside you. And one of my favorite verses in the Bible is Psalm 23. And David is talking about his relationship with the Lord. And whenever I get scared, I kind of quote that to myself. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Right? For you are with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Wow, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, right? It doesn't matter what's going on around me. You make me lie down beside still waters. These are the promises that God has for us. And this is, David, who's, in the midst of being chased and hunted and with fear for his life, is still praising God and holding close to his faith. And to me, that's our call. That's the joy that we have as Christians, is that ability to hold on to God, to be able to have an answer. Because I look at the rest of the world and I get why people do what they do. I totally do. All the insanity and the drugs and the violence and just the bad behavior, and I go, yeah, without Jesus, I might do that too. Because what other answer do I have? I have this pain, these things that are happening in my life that I don't understand, and it demands a release. Have you ever felt so upset about something that you just don't know what to do with yourself? And I think people in that situation, when that persists over time and they don't have an outlet, then they make an outlet, because you do have to do something with it. And for me, the joy and benefit of having Jesus is, God, you know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I can just trust that you have some sort of plan in all this madness. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna hold on to you. I'm gonna persevere and sticking close to you. Jonah in the middle of being trying to run away from God and get swallowed by a fish, and he's on a boat that's going to capsize and in the middle of a massive storm. He was probably freaking out pretty good and wondering what the heck his life was coming to and where this was all going. But God used all of that, even in his own rebellion, where he's actively trying to flee from God. God still had a plan and still brought him back to what the Lord's master plan was for his life. And so I encourage everyone from that perspective that keep walking, keep working out your faith, stay close to God, because that's where your protection is. That's the shade on a sunny day. That's the water when you're thirsty. That's what feeds you. And when you make him the first priority and you persevere in holding on to that as a concept, there's no telling what you can do. Because then I think, the Lord is looking for people who are going to be faithful. And he tests you not so that, just to make a point or whatever. I think it's so that we know what we can accomplish, so that we have the faith. Because when you pushed yourself to an edge and then come back, you know how far you can go. It puts me in mind of a story that I read recently. It was talking, a bunch of Navy SEALs are doing this training, and it's dive training. So they have to go underwater and they have to tie this knot on a line underwater, and you get 5 attempts. So this one particular SEAL trainee was on his 5th attempt, and he obviously missed the previous 4. And if you don't make it, you're going to get kicked out of the SEAL program. So he goes down, and the time, and he's trying to get this knot, but he's freaking out and he's panicking because he can't get the knot, but he's determined. So he's under the pool, under the water, and eventually he drowns, right? And he passes out, goes limp under there. The instructor jumps in the water, goes down, gets him, brings him back up. They're doing CPR on him. He was out for probably about a minute and a half. So, he's gone. But finally, they managed to pump the water out of his lungs, and and he comes to, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Did I pass?" And the instructor says to him, "Yeah, you passed." He's like, "Oh, thank God! Did I? So I got the knot." And the instructor said, "No, you did not get the knot." But I'm in a good mood today, so I'm going to tell you a little secret. The whole point, there's no point to the knot. We don't care whether you get the knot or didn't get the knot. What our objective was to see how far you were willing to go. So you were willing to go to the point of killing yourself. So that you passed, right? And I think sometimes maybe that's the point. Some of the stuff that God is asking us is not so that He particularly cares about this specific outcome. It's how are we going to respond in that outcome? Are we going to hold on? Are we going to persevere? Are we going to stick with what our goal is? Or are we going to fall away or make an excuse not to keep moving forward? So I could go on, but I'm going to end it on that. I just want to encourage you guys to persevere, to stick close to Jesus, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.